Chapter 364. Feng Rushuang? Tang's cis body was flung away from the sword's attack. The blood on his chest dirted his clothes. His face was pale. He fell backward in an awkward manner. Both Tang Wu and Tang Luo were stunned looking at that scene. They saw that Feng Ruching had thrown her glances over at them. They soon felt that there was cold air rushing toward their heads. They could not even move their feet. Einer. Tang Wu almost burst into tears. Quickly tell Lady Feng how we have treated you all these years. Now, we know that it really was a misunderstanding. Can you ask her to stop given that we have taken care of you all these years? Tang Yin was stunned at first. She was skeptical. Then, her hesitance became helplessness. And you are? Tang Wu's old face froze at that. He could not even bring himself to smile just a bit. It was a waste. How he had treated Tang Yin all these years. He had treated her nicely. But Tang Yin refused to admit her relation with him. Feng Ruching held her sword in her hand and walked toward Tang Wu slowly. Xiao Qing. Tang Yin was angry. This old man was really too wicked. How dare he try to claim that I'm related to him? I'm from the Princess Manor. I have no relation with that old man. You need to teach him a lesson for me. Tang Yin was not one of them anymore when they had decided to attack Feng Ruching. The Tang family's destiny has nothing to do with me now. Tang Wu was stunned. He looked at the approaching Feng Ruching. He was in fear and his legs were shaking. Lady Feng, we can talk this out. The attack came at him, and Tang Wu did not dare to resist for fear that Feng Ruching would go on and pluck out her own hair. So, Tang Wu endured the attack and it fell on his shoulders. Blood gushed out, and his entire sleeves were covered in blood. This attack is for Tang Yin's sake. You have chosen Feng Yun Manor instead of her. Another attack came again. This attack is for how you dreamt of marrying my state preceptor to another person. This attack is for how snobbish the Tang family is. You forced Einer to do the things that she did not like without asking her opinion. And this attack is for how you tried to attack me just now. Feng Ruching was able to protect herself without being killed by Tang Wu. But Tang Yin came to protect her without bothering for her own life. Feng Ruching could protect herself well, but she could not guarantee that she could protect Tang Yin too. If the state preceptor had not given her a jade pendant, Tang Yin would have been handicapped for the rest of her life even if she was not dead from the attack just now. The last attack, Feng Ruching closed her eyes. After a while, she opened her eyes and they were cold and distant. It's because you nearly harmed Xiaoyin just now. Tang Wu was injured badly after those 5 attacks. He was covered in blood and his clothes were torn now. Tang Luo was no better. His messy hair fell onto his shoulders and his fists were clenched tightly. He felt that there was no energy left in him. He could not even resist the attack when he was facing with that fierce lady. And he could not resist. In fact, luckily all of them were dark warriors. Feng Ruching's attack could harm them seriously, but they would not be killed. This was the difference in the level of cultivation. But she had the time. She had enough strength to cultivate so that she would be able to destroy the Tang family completely. Tang Yin opened her eyes and looked at Feng Ruching in shock. Her eyes brightened. Her Xiao Qing was so cool. It made her heart pound so uncontrollably fast. Thump, thump. Feng Ruching walked toward Tang Luo. She raised her cold eyes and looked at the man in front of her, emotionlessly. Chapter 365. Feng Rushuang? 2. Tell me now. Who told you about my relationship with Nan Xian? Tang Luo inhaled helplessly. A disciple of the Tang family rescued a woman a few days ago. That woman seemed to be running away from the barracks. She's called Feng Rushuang, and it's she who had told me. Feng Rushuang. Feng Ruching's eyes darkened. Feng Rushuang was kept at the border of the kingdom for a few months. She should be staying there. Why did she run away? Did something happen there? Feng Ruching was subconsciously rather nervous. She could not suppress this feeling, and her facial expression turned sour. Where's Feng Rushuang? Feng Ruching's eyes turned cold as she asked. Tang Luo turned and looked at the maid who had delivered the message just now. The maid kneeled on the floor out of fear. Master, Lady Rushuang's injuries have healed. So, she left the Tang family after telling me about that incident. Tang Shan went away with her too. Tang Shan? Feng Ruching's eyes narrowed. Isn't Tang Shan the one who went after Tang Zi that year? Didn't he want to kill Tang Zi then? It was he who had saved Feng Rushuang. A few months ago, Qin Shan wanted to rescue Feng Ruching at the Forest of Spirit Beasts when she was being taken away by Tiger Mama. If not, they would never have let Tang Shan got away. I never expected that he would be with Feng Rushuang now. Xiao Yin, we're heading back to Lu Yun Kingdom. Feng Ruching was rather anxious and nervous. Feng Ruching felt that there might be something wrong given that Feng Rushuang had run away. Lu Yun Kingdom might face some problems. Xiao Qing, let's go. Tang Yin was thinking about the Princess Manor now. There was excitement all over Tang Yin's face after knowing that they were going back to the Princess Manor. She smiled happily. Feng Ruching's heart was heavy like a stone was pressed onto it. She felt that there were some unfinished business in the Tang family. But she knew that her father was waiting for her, and she was rather anxious about that. She nodded slightly, then she turned and walked to the front yard. Feng Ruching did not see that someone was just descending from the mountain when Feng Ruching turned and walked away. That woman's face looked like Feng Ruching's, and even her sickness could not hide how beautiful she was. Her plain clothes moved with the wind. She seemed both graceful and elegant. Rong Yin looked at the girl's back. Suddenly, there was an explosion in her head. Her heart felt like it was being hit by a hammer. It was painful, and her body shook vigorously. No, don't go. Rong Yin was turned as pale as snow. She was anxious and nervous. She wanted to stop Feng Ruching from leaving, but her body was too weak. She fell down as she took a step forward. Tang Luo mentioned that she could not meet Feng Ruching for fear that she might transmit her own diseases to Feng Ruching. But she still decided to come and meet Feng Ruching. She just wanted to look at her from afar. She wanted to know why a name could make her heart grieve so much. Her heart was like being pricked by a needle when she saw Feng Ruching's silhouette, even if it was only from the back. There was endless pain and guilt in her. She wanted to make Feng Ruching stay. She wanted to give Feng Ruching all the most beautiful things in the world. Feng Ruching did not notice the person behind her. She held Tang Yin's hand and walked toward the lobby. No. Rong Yin wanted to make a sound desperately, but it seemed like her throat was being blocked by something. She could only make a sound so small, like the sound of an ant. It was shaky and hoarse. It did not make any difference to anybody. Don't go. I beg you. Don't go. Bring me along if you want to go. Chapter 366. Please turn and look at me. There were tears running down Rong Yan's cheek and a hint of deep sadness in her eyes. She wanted to rush forward desperately. She did not understand the situation, but she knew that she wanted to stop Feng Ruching from leaving. But the distance between her and Feng Ruching was just too far. She used up all her energy, and still she could not stop Feng Ruching from leaving. Yenner. Suddenly, a gentle voice was heard. He hugged Rong Yin, who nearly fell down again. Rong Yin neither liked or hated Tang Luo before, but a sense of hatred rose in her heart now. She used her hands to push Tang Luo away harshly. Let go. Let go of me. If you do not let go of me, my daughter will leave soon. She'll never come back. Yenner, you're sick again. Tang Luo frowned and sighed softly. Let me bring you back to rest. No, I'm not sick. There was a kind of madness in Rong Yin now. Her tears blurred her eyes. She reached her hand in the direction where Feng Ruching had just left. Tears kept streaming down her beautiful face. Don't go, Qinger, my daughter. Don't go, my daughter. Please turn and look at me. Just take a look at me. I'm right behind you. Tang Luo's eyes soon became cold and distant. Yenner, both of your son and daughter are dead. Rong Yan's body froze. Finally, she turned and looked at Tang Luo. What did you say? Tang Luo hugged Rong Yan's body tightly, and he did not allow her to struggle or move. I didn't tell you that both of your son and daughter were killed by your husband. He killed his own children. I didn't tell you because I was afraid that you couldn't take it. Rong Yin was stunned. She pushed away Tang Luo desperately. No, she's my daughter. She is my daughter. Go away. I want to go. Boom. Tang Luo raised his hand suddenly and hit Rong Yin at the back of her neck. Rong Yan's body weakened, and she fell into Tang Luo's embrace weakly. There was a bottomless pit of sadness in Tang Luo's eyes. He held her up at the waist. The woman's hair fell and covered her beautiful but pale face. I'm sorry, Yenner. I have done wrong at first. I couldn't help but continue what I have started. I had no choice because I did not want you to leave. He would use up all his strength just to not let her leave no matter what. Feng Ruching subconsciously stopped walking. She turned around and her gaze fell on the mountain at the back of the manor. There was a woman in Tang Luo's embrace. That woman wore plain clothes and her hair was loose. Her face was hidden by Tang Luo and Feng Ruching could not see her face. What happened? Tang Yin looked at Feng Ruching surprisingly. Then, she looked in the direction where Feng Ruching had fixed her eyes on. She looked at Tang Luo and blinked. Tang Luo must be carrying the woman he kidnapped 10 years ago. That woman did not come down from the mountain for the past 10 years. Why did she come down today? Feng Ruching frowned slightly. Her hands were on her chest. Her heart beat so fast without reason. That's right. That woman seems to be mad. It looks as if she had lost a son and a daughter, and she couldn't take it. I wanted to go and look at her once, but I was caught by Tang Si. He punished me for that. So, I'm always curious as to what kind of woman could make Tang Luo that desperate. He even drove her mad. Was she really mad because of the loss of her son and daughter? That's what Tang Yu said. Tang Yin still felt that Tang Luo kidnapped that woman because of her beauty. He had even driven her mad. Chapter 367. Rong Yan's madness. Her children are gone? Feng Ruching did not know why she wanted to know about that incident, but she asked anyway. Tang Yin shook her head. I'm not sure about that too. But Tang Luo said that she seems to be mad. So, nobody in the Tang family is allowed to go to that mountain. Rong Yan had come to the Tang family for 10 years now. Tang Yin had never even met her once. The elders in the Tang family did not allow Tang Yin to go to the mountain because of that. It was a loss when Tang Yin thought of that. Feng Ruching felt some kind of sadness in her heart. She lowered her eyes, and there was a bitter smile on her face. She has lost her children, and I have no mother. We're quite alike in that way. So, I can't lose my father too. Feng Ruching did not stay there for long. She turned away from Rong Yang and turned to walk toward the entrance of the Tang Manor. Her eyes seemed cold and distant when she turned and walked away. She would definitely take revenge on the Tang family for what they had done to Tang Zi. She would bring Tang Zi and walk into the Tang family just like they owned the place. They would get back at them for what the Tang family had done. There was a woman in white sitting cross-legged at the top of the mountain. The white phoenix beside her raised its head and looked at her from time to time. There was gentleness in its beautiful eyes. Suddenly, the white phoenix felt upset when it felt a presence nearby. It quickly got up and stared at that godlike body angrily. Sui also noticed something and opened her eyes. She smiled slightly and looked at Nancian. Are you descending the mountain today? Nancian nodded. Yes, Qing'er is still waiting for me. Then, quickly go now. Don't let her wait for you for too long. All right. Nancian frowned slightly. He seemed to be using his calm voice subconsciously. I need to leave Shenyun Mountain now because Qing'er is facing some troubles. Sui frowned slightly. Trouble? The Tang family wants to attack Qing'er. His calm eyes fell on Sui. It was calm as usual. Sui's finger stroked at the white phoenix beside her. She seemed to be talking to herself. The Tang family? It seemed that the person who wanted to find a fiancé for Nancian also came from the Tang family. Now, the Tang family wanted to attack Nancian's woman. Nancian. Sui's facial expression was gentle. She was as beautiful as an angel. Take this doo-doo and give it to her. Nancian's gaze fell on Sui's hand slowly. There was a red doo-doo on her palm. The red doo-doo lied on her palm quietly. I made this by using the silk spun out by the spirit silkworms. I even asked the fire spirit wolf to roast it with its fire. Then, I immersed it in the holy water pond for half a month. It will protect her life in a dangerous situation. It will work for 3 times. Sui's eyes darkened when she talked about that doo-doo. Her eyes were cold. I made this doo-doo that time. He wanted to take it to give to his lover. I did not let him, so I hid it, and I never thought of taking it out for my whole life. But I had no choice now. Nancian held out his hand and took the doo-doo away. He smiled slightly. I'll thank you for Qing'er. Sui also smiled. This thing is useless to me. It's worth it if I give it to her. Nancian said no more. He turned his gaze upon the white phoenix. The feathers of the white phoenix is so beautiful. Chinger must be very happy if I pluck out its feathers to make clothes for her. Swoosh. The white phoenix was scared, and it quickly got up. It hid behind Sui and glared at Nancian angrily. Chapter 368. Rong Yan's Madness 2. Nancian had never praised it before. So, as soon as it heard Nancian words, it knew right off that he was a bastard who was up to no good. Nancian, don't you always bully White Phoenix? Sui smiled helplessly and said, or else it's going to cry again. The White Phoenix kept nodding. True, if Nancian dares to bully it again, it will cry for him to see. Nancian did not think much at first, but a light flashed in his calm eyes as soon as Sui finished her last sentence. Cry? Why don't I collect more tears for Chinger? He had already emptied the White Phoenix's secret chamber of treasures. If he wanted to make it cry, the only way to do it was to go with the feather that it had always been proud of. Well, Nancian slightly cocked his eyebrows. I can stop bullying it, but someone's bullying Chinger, and I feel terrible about it. Sui frowned a little and turned to look at the White Phoenix. Nancian's right, White Phoenix. The little girl is being bullied. You, as our family member, don't you want to offer something to protect that little girl? The White Phoenix was so angry that it stomped the ground with its feet. Its treasure, all of its baby treasures, had been ransacked by Nancian. What else could it offer to help? However, Sui's last sentence had struck the White Phoenix's heart, as every of its grudge had been swept off in a minute. Family member. Sui said that it was their family member. Did not that imply Sui had already accepted it as one of their family members? The White Phoenix was so happy as its little PP was erect. It poked around for half a day and finally, it took out a feather and handed it to Nancian. This is the most precious thing that you can get from me. If she lights up this feather, my doppelganger will show up right away. Even if I'm not capable of transforming into a human form now, it's not a problem for me to handle and deal with that so-called Tang family. Nancian seemed calm. It was obvious that he was not satisfied with the present. However, he understood that the White Phoenix could not offer anything better anymore. He accepted the feather from the White Phoenix and gently replied, "This feather is considered to be usable. At least when Chinger wants to destroy the Tang family, she need not stain her hand. It's good to have you in helping her on the cleaning part." The White Phoenix went numb, and then it got angry. Nancian, you look down on me. This is the most exquisite feather from our White Phoenix clan, as it can create a doppelganger of me. I've spent 20 years to get this one exquisite feather. Do you know how much power it has? Okay. Nancian simply replied coldly, even though the White Phoenix was furious. The White Phoenix did not want to say anything anymore as it felt that the situation was very unjust to him. Like mother, like son. Both of them were the kind of people could not carry a conversation. I'll go first. Nancian turned back and looked at Sui. Take good care of yourself. Sui nodded. Off you go. Nancian turned and looked away. That long snowy robe gradually faded away in those fluffy and mountain-like clouds. Blood was everywhere. In the blood-stained palace, the woman tightly gripped onto the quilt she was laying on the sandalwood bed. Her stunning face was pale and covered in tears. Your Empress? The old granny standing next to her was so worried and said, the assassin was inside the palace, but no one could fight against the assassin. His Majesty wishes to deal with the assassin on his own, but no worries. Your Empress, His Majesty is strong and talented. He will be fine. His Majesty will be back after your Empress has given birth to the baby. The girl tightened her grip on the quilt then. Her pretty eyes were not only filled with anxiety, but more anger deeper inside. How could that bunch of people come here? How could they ignore the rules and break them? Chapter 369. Rong Yan's Madness 3. She felt resentful and helpless about it. She felt helpless because she did not know why she was forced to give birth to a baby at such a crucial moment. She hated it. She hated those people who were there to hurt the person she loved. There was a throbbing pain in her stomach. That pain was strong enough to turn her pale. The bedsheets and comforters were already wet with her cold sweat, also sticky enough. Your Majesty, it's over. The baby is a little princess. Congratulations, Empress. Oh, there's another one. A little prince. Bang. As soon as the old granny finished her words, a force surged up from Rong Yan's neck. Her mind went blank and then she passed out. The girl failed to notice what was happening as she was gently staring at both her babies. She kissed and caressed them in turn as her eyes seemed to look very reluctant to part with them. I'm sorry. Mother can no longer stay by your side in the future. I'm sorry. Mother cannot take care of you and watch you grow up. But your father, he will protect and take good care of you. Mother will try everything I can to protect and keep you safe. Suddenly, her world blacked out. The lovely little figures were slowly fading from her eyes. She started to panic. She fought so hard to reach for their little hands that were stretching out to her, even just for one more time, only if she could touch or kiss them again. However, no matter how hard she tried, she still failed to reach for their little hands. All she could do was helplessly watch everything around her fade into darkness. No. In the cabin, Rong Yin was lying on the bed. Suddenly, she opened her eyes and felt great pain in her head. Then she held her head tightly. Everything in the dream. What was happening exactly? Why did she feel like she had gone through all of these before? Who was she exactly? Where were her children? Yenner. Tang Luo, the person who was staying by Rong Yin all the time. He stretched out his hands as he wanted to hug her as soon as she awoke. She pushed him away before he could get close to her. Go away. I want to find Qinger. I want to find my Qinger. She could not remember anything, but when she saw Feng Ruking's eyes, she knew it. She knew that was her daughter. The daughter that she had waited and missed for many years. That surge of excitement and happiness that she got as soon as she saw her. That was what life about. A life where she had gone through 10 months of pregnancy and had finally given birth to that daughter. Yenner, you're getting sick again. Tang Luo did not get angry but sighed as he could do nothing. I'm not sick. I told you I don't have any disease. Rong Yin went completely mad. Her eyes were red with tears as she looked resentful, fierce, and annoyed. Yes, I was sick before, but that was because I'm sick of missing my children. I'm fully recovered now. She's my daughter and my love. I want to leave the Tang family. I want to look for her. Tang Luo frowned. The thing that he had always worried about was finally happening. He knew. He knew that it was not any good thing to let Feng ruching into Tang residence. That was why he tried all he could to not let Yenner bump into her. But he had never thought of Yenner, a woman who was always reluctant even to take a step to go out of the back hill, would leave the mountain and meet Feng ruching at that very moment. Yenner, are you starting to remember? He asked again, quite hesitant. Rong Yin sneered. I may not remember who I am, but it's enough that I remember who she is. Nobody can stop me from finding my daughter. It seems like you haven't fully recovered yet. Tang Luo smiled as he walked toward Rong Yin. What you saw was only her back. You didn't even get to see her from her front. How can you be sure that she's your daughter? I think you should take a good rest. They'll call the doctor and check on your condition again. Chapter 370. Why? I told you I'm not sick. Rong Yin was unusually agitated. She was so mad that she pulled out a sword from the headboard of the bed and placed the sword on her face. Tang Luo was shocked. Yenner, what are you doing? Rong Yin sneered and said, Don't you and the Tangs think I'm not aware that all of you are talking behind my back and saying that I'm the Helen of Troy? The truth is, you are the one who doesn't want to let go of me. You guys have treated me such a way just because of my pretty face. I should disfigure myself so that I can be in peace for the rest of my life. She did not want much. All she hoped was to find her daughter and husband. And by doing that, she would feel felt as they could live healthily and peacefully for the rest of their lives. She was not ambitious too. All she hoped for was for her daughter to be by her side. Her husband would only care for her and wish the state to always be in peace. But why was everyone so harsh on her? She got this countenance from her parents. Was that her fault? Why should she bear all of the sufferings? Why? The sword had already slashed her face. However, she acted as if nothing had happened as the blood was oozing out. She grinned. Yenner. Tang Luo frowned and said, "Put down the sword, quick." Rong Yan's face was dull. "I want to leave the Tang family." There seemed to be a storm in Tang Luo's eyes. He had treated her so good. He was by her side for 10 years, and in the end, she still wanted to leave him. Yenner, I won't let you go. As usual, his face turned gentle and clear as jade again. I will never let you hurt yourself again. Just like a gust of wind, he was suddenly in front of Rong Yin, and he gripped her arms so hard. Her arms were already weak. As he gripped her arms tighter, she lost all her strength as the long sword in her hands immediately fell to the ground. If it were 10 years ago, I was no match for you. But you are now weaker than before, also with a serious condition now. For sure you can't fight against me. He was afraid. He was afraid that Rong Yin would leave him when she recalled her past. So he had been poisoning Rong Yan's food all these years. The poison would not hurt her body, though it was enough to weaken her day by day. All these years, Rong Yin was silly and dumb enough as she was never aware that someone was poisoning her, especially when she did not use her spiritual power. It was lucky for him to have the foresight to poison Rong Yin, or else no one from the Tang family could even fight against her power then. He had never fallen for her ability but the person herself, Rong Yin. All this time, Rong Yan's eyes were cold. He had never seen that piercing cold expression before. Yenner, am the one who loves you the most in this world. Tang Luo looked down. He was smiling as he stretched out his hand to hold Rong Yin to him. Nobody loves you more than I do. They will never love you more than I do in this world. Go away. Rong Yin roared and stretched out her hand to push Tang Luo away. She could not stand on her feet as she pulled herself away from his arms and almost fell. However, she was still reluctant to let Tang Luo get close to her, not even one step. Yenner, I have tried not to harm you for years. Now, I will make you my woman, and you will never be able to find him again for the rest of your life. His eyes were suddenly filled with hatred before they turned gentle again. His voice was as gentle and soft as water. He will not accept a fallen angel. No man can accept you except me. He could also ignore the fact that she had given birth to a baby. Only true love could be so tolerant. Therefore, no one in the world loved her more than him. Chapter 371. Why? Tang Luo stretched out his hand and pulled Rong Yin into his arms again. With a mighty force this time, he would never let her escape again. Rong Yin's body trembled heavily. Her heart was filled with deep anger and loath. It was like a volcano that would erupt any time. Yenner. Tang Luo looked at the girl standing in front. He seemed to be beguiled, obsessed, and crazy. Rong Yin clenched her fists tightly as she closed her eyes. Another figure emerged in her mind then. Wearing a king's robe, the guy was handsome, gentle, and sophisticated. That was the memory embedded deep in her head. It was a guy whom she had forgotten for 10 years. However, he was the guy whom she would always meet in her dream at night. Although he looked blurry in the dream or was covered with a thin layer of mist, she could not control her heartbeats whenever he appeared. That intense feeling for him was the reason why she did not believe in Tang Luo's words. A man whom she would still love even though she had lost her memory. How could he hurt her? He must be the best husband in the world. Rong Yin opened her eyes. She looked overbearing, just like before, as she was the king that everyone would respect in the world. No more silliness, dumbness, or gentleness could be seen in her eyes. Go away. Bang. Suddenly, a mighty force exploded from her body. That force was startling enough to force Tang Luo to retreat immediately. His eyes were wild with shock. Splat. Rong Yin spat a mouthful of blood. She looked pale. She could stand on her feet, but needed the wall support to steady herself as both of her legs could not stand straight anymore. Yenner. Tang Luo finally came to his senses. I've told you, you're poisoned. You are weaker than before. But then you didn't care for your body and pushed me away using your power. You will hurt your body by doing so. The poison that he used would weaken her ability, but it was not harmful to her body. However, it was hard to say that the effects would remain the same if Yinner was trying to do anything violent again. Rong Yin wiped away the blood from the corners of her lips and smirked. If you dare to touch me again, I'd rather us perish together. I will never let you taint me. Back then, she would rather die than to let the people from the Divine Herbs sect to touch her too. There was no difference now. Yinner, are you starting to recall your past? Tang Luo frowned and asked.
Yes.
She did not recall anything when she woke up from the evil dream that day. Not until when Tang Luo was coercing her. Then the vague countenance started to reveal itself slowly and become clearer. It was at that very moment when she retrieved all of the memories that she had forgotten before. Divine Herb Sect. The Tang family. Rong Yin clenched her fists tightly. She wanted to make all of the people who stopped her family from reuniting die. But don't you remember how good I have treated you for these past 10 years? Good. Rong Yin sneered. You're good to me. So you intentionally poisoned me when I was badly wounded to make me lose my memory? You're good to me. So you imprisoned me for 10 years when I was silly and idiotic? You're good to me. So you stopped me from meeting my daughter and even coerced me? She remembered everything. And she remembered how the Tang family had treated her for the past 10 years. Why was she reluctant to receive help from the little servant? Because she was not sober and ignorant enough that even a little servant would dare to bully and insult her. She was a person that would revolt, even though she was not as strong as before. She would still beat the little servant black and blue. For that reason, Tang Luo always thought that she would never let anyone step into the back hill when she would beat the innocent little servant who allowed someone to go there. Chapter 372. Why? 3. She did not allow the doctor to check her condition, because it was the doctor who had pricked her with needles even when she was healthy, never wanting to let go of her. She was afraid, loathful, and sick of dealing with them. So she hit the doctors. That was the reason why Tang Luo thought that she would rather stay ill than seek help from the doctors. And Tang Yu, the Gert who was the same age as Rong Yan's daughter, but a villainous and evil person. When Rong Tan was still dumb and missed her daughter so much, she pretended to be gentle as a strategy to trick her of her many spirit herbs. And she would turn against her after she got the spirit herbs from her. However, there was always some time when she was sober, no matter how dumb she was. Tang Yu had no chance to cheat her of her spirit herbs when she was sober, but then she would provoke and remind her using her daughter's tale as a revenge for not giving her spirit herbs. However, although a lot of spirit herbs were cheated from her by Tang Yu, all the spirit herbs that were above grade 5 were firmly secured in her hand all the time, because she had always understood well that things that she kept for Qing'er must never fall into anyone else's hand. No one. Yinner, I admit that I have failed you since the very beginning, but I have used 10 years to make up to you. Our whole Tang family is making up to you. Isn't that enough? Tang Luo looked at Rong Yin as his heart ached. Rong Yin smiled coldly and stood up. Tang Jia is making up to me? The little servant girl who bullied her, the injuries from the doctors, Tang Yes cheating, these were all making up to me? Tang Luo's heart suddenly skipped a beat. Was there anything else that had happened in the past 10 years that he did not know? Rong Yin sneered. I can tell you why on earth you are inferior to him. When we got married, we were not strong enough, but we promised to support each other for the rest of our lives. Her voice turned from cold to gentle now. But there were so many women who wanted to marry him, also countless people who coerced him to take a concubine. He turned all of them down despite being under all the pressures. It was I who had persuaded him to take one of the concubines. Only if he never pampers the girl, that's all I wanted. She had met all the women before they entered the palace. Also, she told them about Feng Tianyu's decision. They could live in the palace, but were condemned to live a life of widowhood till the end. She could let them go if they did not want to. However, if they insisted on staying, they had no choice but to follow. If anyone dared to seduce Feng Tianyu, she would not sit back and let go of any of their mistakes. It would not matter if it was that woman herself, or her family because the rest of their lives were doomed to be restless. She was ruthless because she did not allow her husband to sleep with other concubines. Also, she had given the women a chance to leave or stay from the very beginning. However, there were still women who wanted to enter the palace, so they could not blame her for being cruel. For this reason, Rong Yan's face turned even gentler as she was reminiscing the past. I have stirred up troubles with so many people, and they forced my husband to abandon me. But then, again, he survived through all the pressures and would never let anyone hurt me. And you? So many people did so many harmful things to me. They just did them right before your eyes. But do you even know that? Maybe it's because you're too arrogant, or you don't really love me that much. So you provided them with a chance to hurt me. But Feng Tianyu would never do that. She had never even suffered a single injury when he was beside her. He had always been keeping her safe and sound all the time. So in return, she was willing to defend the country for him. That's not what you think. Tang Luo finally panicked. He grabbed Rong Yan's shoulder and said, I love you so much. I really do. I just don't know what had happened. Yenner, please, believe me, I would never let go of anyone who had hurt you before. Never. Chapter 373. Rong Yan's wounds. The corners of Rong Yan's lips lifted, and her smile became more and more scornful. She did not like the people who cry out and say they wanted to avenge her only after all the sufferings had ended. She only liked men like Feng Tianyu, that kind of man who would never let her get hurt in the first place. Tang Luo could not help but get mad when he saw Rong Yan's eyes. Yenner, Feng Ruching has a half-sister. That man had betrayed you long ago. I am the only one who will not betray you. Oh, Rong Yan seemed calm. So what? Tang Luo was stunned and in disbelief. You still want to forgive him despite it? Rong Yan smiled and looked at Tang Luo. I trust him. He will never do that. She wanted them to stop talking about her trust toward Feng Tianyu. Back then, she already found out that someone had poisoned him before she left. It was a kind of poison that would make it impossible for Feng Tianyu to have an affair with any other woman in the bed, or else he would die immediately. But Feng Tianyu had been well alive since then, which implied that he had never pampered or got close with that concubine. Back then, she was the one who had secretly helped to stop the poison from invading Feng Tianyu. In doing so, her body weakened. She could not fully recover even though she was going to deliver a baby, and that was why it provided an opportunity for the people to attack her. Even if the poison was halted, it was still impossible for him to sleep with anyone. Therefore, every time Feng Tianyu wanted to go wild with her in bed, she would use the pregnancy as an excuse to turn him down. Therefore, it remained unknown where did the girl come from. Tang Luo's eyes were red and asked angrily, You trust him that much? He had betrayed you. How could you still trust him? Why? Yenner, do you really love that man? He's a man from the secular world. Is he worthy of your love? I come from the so-called secular world, and our power match too. Why can't I be your man? Yenner, I will never let go of you. They'll never do that in my life. Tang Luo grabbed Rong Yan's wrist tightly and shook her violently. This woman gave her 10 years of happiness, but to abandon him now. How could she be so cruel? Just because of that little servant and the doctor who had done bad things to her? He did not take any action in the first place because he was ignorant. When he knew, he would definitely not let go of those people. Was that not enough to prove his love toward her? What the hell does she want him to do to prove his love? Bang! Suddenly, a spirit force came inside the cabin and crashed on Rong Yan's chest violently. Rong Yan's body had been initially weak. Under that spiritual force, she fell backwards suddenly and hit her head on the wall. It was so painful that her scalp went numb and her face turned pale. Rong Yan's hand was quivering. Was she weakened to such an extent? She was so weak that simply anyone could hurt her? Yuer, what are you doing? Tang Luo frowned and asked as he turned around and saw Tang Yu standing there expressionlessly. Tang Yu sneered and said, Father, this woman already wishes to leave the Tang family now. Do you still want to let her do whatever she wants, just like before? Letting her roam at the back of the hill freely? If you really like her, you'd better tie this woman up before she runs away. Rong Yin forced herself to stand up. She tried to gather a puff of spiritual force in her palms, but the force vanished just as it appeared. She tried again, but still failed. Ahem. She coughed and spat out a mouthful of blood. She looked at the Tang family's father and daughter coldly. Tang Luo was shocked. He turned his head back and looked at Rong Yin. Tie her up, tie her up. How could he bear to do that, father? You have spent 10 years on her, but she was never grateful. Instead, she is trying to drive a wedge between us. Father, don't you know well what kind of person I am? Because of you, I am willing to accept a crappy woman to be my mother. Isn't that enough to prove my sincerity? Chapter 374. Rong Yan's wounds. Tang Luo remained silent. She only wants her husband and children back. Once you set her free, she will take an opportunity to leave unless you keep an eye on her day and night. Don't tell me that you have poisoned her and made her lose her memories. Don't you see that she has got her memory back now? What if she gets her power back too? Who else can stop her? Tang Yu looked malevolent. What a cheap woman, Rong Yin. How could she have regained her memory? She could not let her go, or else she would lose her position as the lady of Fengyun Manor. She would not have had any attachment to the position if she had never owned it before. Since she had gotten the taste of the power of being a lady of the house, she never wanted to lose it again. After all, everyone from Fengyun Manor had already assumed that Rong Yin was already dead. She could make it real too. Tang Ye's eyes flashed with the intention of murdering her before Tang Luo could notice. Everything was fine when Rong Yin had no past memories at first. If someone was to blame, all they could blame was Rong Yin, who found her memory back, but not Tang Yu. She would not let anyone take away what was already in her hand. Tang Luo started to panic because Rong Yin was too strong. She was strong enough to make him afraid. So, he could not bear any chances of letting her restore her ability. Yinner, I'm sorry. I would not have wanted to do so. Tang Luo closed his eyes in agony and opened them after a while. It's all right if you don't want to be my woman. We will just by each other's sides, and that's already enough. He did not ask for much. All he wanted was for Rong Yin to be with him for the rest of his life. Tang Yu sneered. She gradually took out a little purple flower. Feed her this. This will not only take away all of her spiritual power, but also it will make her lose her spiritual power completely. Also, it will make her unable to move and speak. Tang Luo's eyes turned wild with shock. It could also make her unable to speak? Purplewood flower. You should have heard of it before. Purplewood flower. Isn't that a grade 5 spirit herb? How could Tang Yu have grade 5 spirit herbs in her hands? Rong Yin looked at the spirit herbs in Tang Ye's hand. Her body went stiff as she clenched her fists tightly. No, that's not purplewood flower. It's purple kite flower. Purplewood flower and purple kite flower. It was hard to distinguish them as they looked very similar. However, one of the flowers was a grade 5 spirit herb, while the other one was a grade 6 spirit herb. Their pharmaceutic effects were different too. However, both of the flowers were toxic. The former one had the effects just like what had Tang Yu mentioned. However, the latter one not only consists of the same effect as the former one, but also, it would dehydrate a person day by day until the body became a dry corpse. As for how she knew it so well, it was because the purple kite flower originally belonged to her. She had put it in Fengyun Manor's treasury vault. How could it end up in Tang Ye's hands? Rong Yan suddenly panicked. She seemed to remember that there was a time when she had accidentally taken out Fengyun Manor's token. However, she had forgotten to keep it back. Did she hide it under the quilt? As soon as Rong Yin thought of this, she quickly staggered to the wooden bed and unfolded the quilt right away. However, the bed was empty. Nothing could be found. Fengyun Manor's token was gone. Rong Yin stared at Tang Yu angrily. Her body was shaking. Her beautiful eyes burned with a flame. Tang Yu was not afraid of her as the corners of her lips lifted coldly. Father, what I hold in my hand is purplewood flower. It's already not easy for me to get grade 5 spirit herbs. Do you think I'm capable of finding and getting grade 6 spirit herbs? It's only because she's afraid. So she reacted like that on purpose so that she can stop you from feeding her the medicine. Chapter 375. Rong Yan's wounds. 3 Tang Luo could not become the master of the Tang family if he were foolish. However, he could not think rationally as his heart had gone mad. He was too afraid that Rong Yin would leave him. He would do anything to make her stay. Good. Even if Rong Yin could detox herself from the poison that he had given to her years ago, it must be impossible for her to detox herself from the violetwood bloom's poison. Father, I know you cannot stand to do it. Why don't you let me help you? Tang Yu smiled and said, You may leave first. Tang Luo's eyes sank in pain. The violetwood bloom was too poisonous. He really could not stand seeing her taking that poison. So, he did not say anything as he looked at Rong Yin guiltily. Then, he turned and walked out, leaving only Rong Yin and Tang Yu in the room. Aunt Rong. Tang Yu gently smiled and walked toward Rong Yin. I can see that you cannot even stand on your feet. Stop fighting. Do you think that useless people like you can be my opponent? You just pushed my father away, and I guess you've used up all your power so you can do nothing to me now. It was apparent that Tang Yu had returned for quite a while and heard many of their conversations. Oh, speaking of which, I am the lady of Fengyan Manor right now. Don't worry, I will inform the people of Fengyan Manor that it was your own daughter who had poisoned you. Tang Yu smirked. My words, the people in Fengyan Manor will. Rong Yan's eyes were cold. They will not believe you. I will make them believe. Tang Yu pursed her little lips haughtily. The bunch of fools in Fengyan Manor, they are very easy to trick. It's such a waste if I don't make use of them. Oh, by the way, I have to tell you that your taste in names is really terrible. Feng Qing Court. What a disgusting name to hear. So I have changed it into Feng Yu Court. Well, that is the court that you had prepared for me. So for sure, it has to be named after me. Rong Yin clenched her fists tightly. Her breath was starting to turn erratic too. Aunt Rong, thank you. Thank you for putting in such an effort into building Fengyan Manor and all the power and status that come together for me. Also a Feng Yu Court for me too. I can't thank you enough for that. From now on, I will never tell anyone from the Tang family that you were sponging our Tang family too. Oh, by the way, throughout these 10 years, I have lied to Father that because you're not in good condition, you need something throughout these 10 years. I told him that you need the spirit herbs as a medication. So, he was very assured to entrust me with the spirit herbs and serve you. Well, the truth is, I have eaten all the spirit herbs. Then, I told everyone in the Tang family that Father was pampering you by serving you with spirit herbs every day. Therefore, everyone from the Tang family hates you very much as none of them wants you to be alive. To keep a freeloader in our family, what's the point? Although the spirit herbs were not as precious as the one that she had cheated from Rong Yin, still, even a little ant has its own meat too. It was natural for her to benefit from eating more spirit herbs, and Rong Yin was doomed to hold the bag for her. Well, Rong Yin deserved this because she did not want to hand over the storage bag to her. Rong Yin gritted her teeth and resolutely refused to swallow the violet milvus bloom. Tang Yes seemed wicked and tried to force the violet milvus bloom into her mouth. Her gums were bleeding. Tang Yu had poked them with her nails. The sap of the violet milvus bloom had filled her mouth and gotten to her wounds, immediately invading her body through her wounds. Tang Luo was still worried, so he came back immediately after he had left. He pushed open the door, and he saw Tang Yu holding Rong Yan's body. Tang Yu cried out sadly, Aunt Rong, I really like you. I'm afraid that you would leave, so I have no choice but to feed you the violet would bloom. Please don't blame me. I really don't want to part with you. Chapter 376. A hero can shed no tears. Only blood-eye Tang Luo saw Tang Yes' painful expression and relented. His daughter liked Yenner, just like him. It was Yuer who had accompanied Yenner when he had no time to be by her side throughout all these years. So, how could Yuer want to bully Yenner? In fact, she loved her so much. Or else, Yuer could just refuse to accept Yenner, But why did she try everything she could to make her stay? It seemed that Yenner had misunderstood because Yuer was not treating her in the way wanted. Just like how Yenner misunderstood him as well. Yuer, it's all right. Tang Luo went up to Tang Yu and patted her on her shoulder. Father knows that you are too fond of her, but you have no choice to come up with this idea. I feel you. Just like what you worry about, I was afraid that she would leave too. Rong Yin seemed to be lost in her own mind as she looked on blankly. Just like a soulless person, her eyes were blank. Tang Yu looked down as she grinned. She did not want to take away Rong Yan's life immediately because she was afraid that father would find out that she was up to something. So, she decided to use Violet Milvis Bloom and let the time slowly take her away. Yenner. Tang Luo walked up to Rong Yin painfully as his eyes were filled with guilt. One day, you will know who's the one who loves you the most in the world. He did not get any reply from her even though he waited for a long time. It was because the woman before him was unable to open her mouth and speak anymore. He finally sighed and gradually stood up. Yuer, take good care of her for now. Okay. Tang Yu, with tears in her eyes, nodded. As she saw Tang Luo walk out of the cabin, something cold flashed in Tang Ye's eyes as she hurried out. Father! Tang Ye's voice made him stop as he was just about to walk out of the cabin. Tang Luo looked back at her and asked, Yuer, is there anything else? Father! Tang Ye's eyes seemed malicious. She has remembered everything now. We can only let her stay with us forever by killing her relatives. No. Tang Luo's face had suddenly changed. Never lay a finger upon them. Tang Yu seemed surprised and asked, Why? Why not? Tell me a reason, father. Tang Luo's lips seemed to reflect a sense of bitterness. Tang Yu thought he was willing to tolerate. He could let go of her past, but still, Feng Ruqing was her daughter. The presence of this woman was like a thorn in his heart, a thorn that would always remind him of a man who had all the happy times with her before. Also, to make her give birth to a child for him willingly. He was not some kind of generous or tolerant person. He was only generous to Rong Yin but not other people. He could not make himself ignore and pretend to see nothing of it. However, Feng Ruqing was Nanxian's woman. He wished he could never see Feng Ruqing in his life again. But what could he do with her? Yuer, stop involving yourself in this matter again. We, the Tang family, is a reclusive family. Back then, we have set the rules that people from the reclusive world will never interfere with the secular world. This is a rule that even the Divine Herbs sect would never dare to violate. Tang Luo sighed. Many years ago, there were not so many rules in Songyu mainland. Those who were not strong enough were doomed to die. But just a few decades ago, a strong man came out of nowhere and forced the reclusive world to sign the agreements with the secular world that had been oppressed for countless years. As a condition, he must remain in that place for the rest of his life, as he was never allowed to return to the secular world anymore. Tang Yu tried to conceal her wickedness. Father, I understand. Chapter 377. A hero can shed no tears, only blood too in Lu Yun Kingdom. Not far above the hills, Feng Ruquang stood in the valley, as the corner of her lips lifted into some kind of sneer. It seemed like she could see the imperial city was in the storm of war from such a height. A few days before, several countries had invaded the borders of Lu Yun Kingdom. She had escaped while the Nalan family and their warriors defended the border. How could anyone know that she would be in danger during her journey? If it was not for the Tang family's Tang Shan who had rescued her, she would have died. Luckily, she followed Tang Shan back to the Tang family. Then, she found out that Nanxian was the fiancé of the lady of the Tang family. However, such an excellent man would only fall for her. That day when she was sent to the border, a cold-hearted man was there to send her. Feng Ruqing, eventually, you will still lose to me. Feng Ruquang's eyes were filled with pride. She thought of what her mother had said to her the day before she left. Nanxian liked her. It was only because Feng Ruqing was clinging on to Nanxian that he had had a bad impression of her too. However, eventually, when Nanxian knew that she and Feng Ruqing were not the same kind of people, he had gradually fallen in love with her. She had returned for some reason. One was to take revenge, another one was to be Nanxian's wife. She planned not to forgive Nanxian for quite a while at first, as a punishment to treating her that badly when they were in southern bamboo forest back then. However, she could not help missing him as her feelings had surpassed all of her grief. So, she made the final decision to forgive him fully. As a matter of fact, Feng Rushuang had sneaked away as soon as she said those words when she was in the Tang family. She did not notice Nanxian's shadow. Also, she was aware that Feng Ruqing, who was initially doomed to die, had come back alive. Lady Feng. Tang Shan was behind Feng Rushuang. He leered at the delicate body of the little girl in front of him and slightly smiled. Let's go. Okay. Feng Rushuang looked disgusted even though she did not look back at the man who stood behind her. In this world, only a divine man like the state preceptor was qualified to be with her. She would have dumped him long ago if she had not been worrying about facing any new danger. Within Lu Yun Kingdom, beyond the gate, dead bodies were strewn all over the places. The gate was stained with blood. All the people who had been waiting to enter the city were killed with all kinds of weapons. Only a few lucky survivors were crying while holding the corpses of their loved ones. They were trembling under the sword of the soldiers. Lu Yunxiao put a hand on his back and stood high in the air. His old cowardly pale face had changed into a condescending, smiling face. Just like a dominant superior in his high position, he looked down at the group of struggling ants one below. Nailin Hu, stop your useless fight back. Today, I have brought along 10 spirit warriors. You are no longer my opponent anymore. Back then, he was the one where Nailin Hu had stomped on. Whenever he saw General Nailin and his people, all he could do was hide in the shell like a tortoise. He could not be any more inferior. But now, the inferior one had already been replaced by Nailin Hu. What an unprecedented pleasure. He could not help but burst out laughing as if he wanted to vent out all of his frustrations and humiliations that he had been bearing for decades. Nailin Hu was angry and pale. He quickly escaped from the long sword held by the people in front of him. His old face was pale as his eyes scintillated anger. Lu Yunxiao, as a courtier of Lu Yun Kingdom, how dare you to team up with other strong countries and enemies to invade our Lu Yun Kingdom? Except for Long Ao Kingdom, which had been destroyed, all the other strong ones had gathered up here. Chapter 378. A hero can shed no tears, only blood. 3. No matter how strong Lu Yun Kingdom was, it was impossible to fight against the siege of 4 nations. Also, there were already 5 people who had reached the advanced spirit warrior tier among the spirit warriors. Lu Yun Kingdom without Nailin Yin is a kingdom that cannot withstand even a single blow. An old man dressed in purple sneered at the sky and punched Nailin Hu's chest. Nailin Hu could only defend the attack from behind. He was unable to avoid any other attack, so the punch had immediately made him spit blood. His old body was forced to take several steps backward. Master Qin's eyes were red as he growled anxiously, "Old General." Master Nailin crawled up from the ground. He stood with his back straight, and his eyes looked fierce. No one could defy him. Lu Yunxiao, even if I, Nailin Hu, were to be buried in this imperial city today, the Nailin family's blood and allegiance would never be defeated. The border was in danger in the past 2 days. Zhangqian and Jinger were sent to the frontier. It was lucky for them not to be in the imperial city at that time. He hoped that the 2 boys would not return as the news spread outside the palace. If the Nailin family's blood still existed, their soul of loyalty would never be defeated. For those who stepped into the land of Lu Yun Kingdom, one day they would pay the price. Lu Yunxiao laughed. Nailin Hu, who do you think it was who had made up the frontier crisis? What awaits them at the border is hell. You, the Nailin family, are doomed to be history. At first, after Lu Yunxiao spoke, he thought that Nailin Hu would be in deep grief and rather die than to live. But the old man's face was very calm since the beginning. It was so calm that his face barely moved. You are wrong. The disciples and followers of the Nailin family are all over the world. Even if Jinger, Changqian and I are dead, there will still be someone to stand up against you. For the people of the Nalan family, you can never finish killing us no matter how hard you try. Ha ha ha. Nalan, who burst into a wild, arrogant laugh. The smile was just as powerful as his unyielding spirit, a spirit which could astound anyone. One day, they will take over my place to defend and protect our country and frontiers. His eyes were burning with wild flame and murderous spirit, and he grinned as he was looking at Lu Yunxiao condescendingly. If you're afraid, get on your knees and kowtow to seek forgiveness from the innocent people you've killed. You kneel until the world forgives you. What a damned bastard to ally with the foreign enemy and kill the defending soldiers. Even those normal people who were waiting to enter the city did not stand a chance to escape from the killing Talon as well. How innocent were those people? Crying hysterically and despairingly, a woman held a girl's corpse in her arms. Lu Yunxiao suddenly lifted his hand and clasped the woman to him. He tightly grasped the woman's neck with his fingers and looked at Nalan, who with a cold smile. If you love all of this rubbish so much, kneel before me right now. Otherwise, I will slaughter the whole city and use the blood from all of the people to worship my wrath. Nalan Huss' old eyes were red. He turned purple with rage and said, Lu Yunxiao, I'm the one whom you've always hated. They are just ordinary people without any strength or weapons. What's the difference between you and a beast by doing so? Swoosh. With a strong grip, Lu Yunxiao broke the woman's neck. He flung the woman's corpse to the ground and sneered. In this mainland, the fittest survive and the ordinary ones. How could they have the right to live and waste the food? All the people from Lu Yun Kingdom had gone completely mad by looking at Lu Yunxiao's cruel behavior. The people of the iron-blooded army clutched on their weapons tightly as their eyes burned with anger. Chapter 379. A hero can shed no tears, only blood. For Lu Yunxiao grabbed another crying little boy and looked at Nalan, who coldly. Nalan, who, to your knees now. Nalan, who had no chance of winning him, as he had united with several strong nations. What he wanted was not only the Nalan family's life. He also wanted to humiliate Nalan, who in every possible way before he died. You! Nalan Huss' eyes were burning with rage. However, Lu Yunxiao gave him no chance to think. He stabbed through the little boy's chest with a sword. The little boy was only around 3 years old. His parents had just been slaughtered, and he was left alone in the world. However, he had already lost his life at the age where he had only started to understand and discover the world. His eyes were round and wide. He looked terrified and reluctant to die as there were tears in his eyes, but then, he could not stand up and live anymore. Nalan, who felt as if his heart was pierced through by needles. It was really painful. He loved the people and treated them like his own children. Even though he had been on the battlefields for so many years, or helped to expand the kingdom's power, he had never hurt a single ordinary man in any country. As the general of a nation, his duty was to protect these ordinary people. But all he could do was to watch these people collapse before his eyes. He could do nothing. Lu Yun Kingdom's people were enraged. As the battle turned more violent, their eyes became even redder, as if there was a wave of deep anger that had nowhere to go. At the same time, Lu Yunxiao dragged another middle-aged man. Nalan, who stopped all the fighting. His eyes landed on the person Lu Yunxiao was holding. He was expressionless. What you wish for is to humiliate me, isn't it? I will do as you wish, but please, let go of all these ordinary folk. Lu Yunxiao smiled coldly and said, I will let them leave the imperial city if you kneel down to me. I won't kill them if they never return. How's the deal? Okay. Nalan Huss' voice quivered, but his eyes were as resolute as steel. Old General. Everyone was frightened. They looked at Nalan, who anxiously. You can't do that. Nalan, who was someone who cared about his dignity very much. If he really did that, he would suffer for the rest of his life. Even if he survived, he would be living in hell. Nalan, who slowly closed his eyes. After a while, he slowly opened his eyes and gradually went down on his knees. Old General, Qin Fiang's old face was filled with sadness. You can't do as he wishes. You can't do that. Nayland Huss' ears could not hear any sound anymore. He knew it well, for no doubt, he would die on that day. If that was the case, what was the harm to save a person by tarnishing his dignity? Just as Nayland Huss' knees were about to land on the ground, the middle-aged man grabbed the sword from Lu Yongxiu's hand by his surprise, and the middle-aged man plunged it through his own chest. Nayland Huss' body went stiff. Blood splattered and splashed onto Nayland Huss' face. His body froze as he could only stare at the man falling to the ground. Lu Yunxiao was shocked. He had never thought that the man would be doing this. He could not come to his senses for quite a while. Old General. The man lay his face flat on the ground as the blood covered the whole ground in red. You are a hero. My wife and daughter got killed by him just now. I don't want to survive in disgrace and let a hero lose his dignity. Lu Yun Kingdom had been peaceful for decades because of the Nayland family. Everyone from the Nayland family was a hero. A hero can shed no tears but only blood. Nayland Huss' old face was covered in tears. He struck out a violent gust of wind with the long sword in his hand, and suddenly, the gust had reached Lu Yunxiao. You Lu family bastard, I want you to die. Chapter 380. When the kingdom is under attack, stand up and fight back. Lu Yongxiu's face suddenly darkened. Nayland Hu, how dare you to disobey my command? Don't forget that I have still plenty of hostages in my hand. Do you want all of this rubbish to die? Perhaps that man had somehow encouraged all the people to fight back when he started to fight back. The people, whom Lu Yunxiao regarded as rubbish, seemed to have forgotten to cry and wail at the moment. They crawled up from the ground as their eyes were filled with anger and determination. They knew what was going on even if they were just ordinary people. How could the eggs stay unbroken when the nest is overturned one? If Lu Yun Kingdom was destroyed, how would there still be a place for them to stay? Besides, the old general was a hero. They could not bear to let the hero be humiliated, or to make him lose his hope. Lu Yunxiao turned back and took a glance. He was shocked again to see all the ordinary people rushing toward the army of 4 countries. They were all ordinary people with no weapons in their hands. They could not even endure an attack under the power of the army of 4 countries. Why? How could they be so brave? Did they not want to live? Lu Yunxiao could never fathom this. Human nature should be selfish in his eyes. The humans are creatures that like to bully the weak, but are afraid of the stronger ones. Humans are scared of death and would do anything to survive. There should not be a human who would still rush forward without any hesitation when they knew well that the way ahead was a dead end. Nayland Huss' eyes were teary and filled with anger. A mighty gust blew around him. Just like a hurricane, his sword roared and rushed forward violently. When Lu Yunxiao came to his senses, he met that anger eyes and quickly used his sword to defend the gust. Clang! That brutal force shook and made his arms go numb. He took a few steps back and looked at a spirit warrior beside him and said, General Ling, help me to deal with this old thing. Ling Yu nodded, and then he was in front of Nayland Hu. Old General Nayland, you look just fine. Ling Yu, the general of Ziyun Kingdom, had met and fought with Nayland Hu a couple of times before. After all, they were old friends, so he thought that Nayland Hu would respond to him no matter what had happened. But Nayland Hu had broken into his vision without saying another word. Ling Yu slightly frowned and smiled. You have the same old temper, my hot-tempered pal. I would really admire you if we let go of all the political connections and hatred. However, I'm the general of Ziyun Kingdom, and you're the general of Lu Yun Kingdom. We are destined to be enemies forever. The long sword of a spirit warrior slashed Tang's silky hair and cut it. Her face was cold without any expression on it. But the anger inside her heart was obvious and noticeable. The Empress of Lu Yun Kingdom, Nayland Yen, she was just like the mother of the world as everyone was her son and daughter. When the Prince of Long Ao Kingdom was arbitrarily killing the people of Lu Yun Kingdom, she would bring her people and attack Long Ao Kingdom. She had forced that prince into death. But now, scores of people were being killed in the imperial city of Lu Yun Kingdom. How painful it would be for the Empress to know what had happened in the kingdom. Tang Zi's body was trembling, because she knew that the Empress could not bear anyone killing the people in Lu Yun Kingdom. You forgot the Empress' words. Tang Zi held a long sword in her hands. She was brave and mighty in her spirits. She said that she would kill 100 people if anyone dares to touch a people of Lu Yun Kingdom. She will destroy the country if anyone dares to touch 100 people of Lu Yun Kingdom. She sneered. Her cold eyes were filled with pride. Don't you think you can do anything you want even if the Empress is not here? Is the doom of Long Ao Kingdom not enough of a warning to you? She was with the three-striped tiger when she invaded Long Ao Kingdom that day. However, the news had not spread yet. They thought only the masters of Lu Yun Kingdom went forward to destroy Long Ao Kingdom, as they did not know the existence of the Tier 5 spirit beasts. Chapter 381. When the kingdom is under attack, stand up and fight back too, otherwise, the troops from the four kingdoms would not be so daring. Tang Zi had tasked someone to inform the three-striped tiger. It was a pity that the three-striped tiger was still at the forest of spirit beasts, far away from the city. She needed more time. Tang Zi, if you are willing to surrender, you could be the general of Tianxin Kingdom. An old man with an iron bomb lowered his eyes and glanced at Tang Zi. I follow no one but Her Highness. I will always stand guard over Her Highness and never betray her for the rest of my life. Tang Zi sneered. Don't cross the line. Otherwise, don't blame me for being merciless. A glimpse of viciousness flashed through the old man's eyes. In a flash, an overwhelming aura rushed toward Tang Zi. Originally, Tang Zi could barely handle a spirit warrior. With this old man joining the attack, they were far beyond her. Nevertheless, she did not take a step back. She stood rooted to the spot as she wanted to protect the Lu Yun Kingdom that was behind her. As Tang Zi could not handle them, the sword of the old man pierced through her left shoulder. In an instant, blood oozed from the wound, stained her robe red. Roar! A loud roar sounded from behind. Tang Zi turned around only to see that all the spirit beasts from the Princess Manor were rushing up to her. Qing Ling and Lu Li were rushing after the spirit beasts. That was not all. All the nobles and officials in the imperial city who knew about the raid, young and old, were rushing her way together with the troops. Why you all are here? Stay away. Stunned, Tang Zi knitted her brows together. It was fine for the Snow Wolf to be here as he was a Tier 4 spirit beast. The rest of them, without attaining spirit warrior tier, was no doubt seeking their own demise. Squad leader Tang Zi, because of Her Highness, we have been taking plenty of herbal dishes. Moreover, the spirit beasts have always been helping us in the cultivation, even though our strength is still weak. But, Lu Li pursed her lips together. This is something to do with our kingdom. No matter how weak we are, we will not sit back and do nothing. Lu paused for a while and continued. This was the matter of the rise and fall of the kingdom. All the civilians of Lu Yun Kingdom must stand up to defend their kingdom. Even if their strength was no match for the opponent, they must fight. The same went for the rest. Even though they could feel the overwhelming aura of the spirit warriors, they would never step back. At this very moment, a strange feeling seized Tang Zi's heart, and she could not say a word. Besides the officials and nobles, she could see the civilians, who had not attained any warrior tier, from the tender age of 10 to 60 years of age. Howl! The Snow Wolf howled furiously before pouncing on the old man who attacked Tang Zi. The Snow Wolf was taking a nap on the mountain behind the manor. He had never thought that the imperial city would sink into chaos when he woke up. You bastard! Don't you dare to hurt my master's subordinate. If I could let this slide, I don't deserve the divine spirit fruit from my master. The old man's face slightly darkened. He took a few steps backward to catch his balance. His sword blocked the Snow Wolf's sharp fangs. Clang! The Snow Wolf bit into the sword and broke it into pieces in a flash. The sword was crispy but tasteless. Tang Zi quickly regained her focus. She knew that all of them would not leave even if she forced them. In the Chancellor's manner, Yuchun, you must not go. Stay back. Lady Lu clung onto Lu Yuchen's thigh as she cried out loud. Chapter 382. When the kingdom is under attack, stand up and fight back. 3 Mother, Lu Yun Kingdom is falling apart. Lu Yuchen's body stiffened. He paused as he talked to the lady behind his back. His eyes were filled with sorrow. This time was different from the incident in the palace. Back then, the people of Long Ao Kingdom only wanted to challenge the Nalan family. Even if they usurped the throne, they would never devastate Lu Yun Kingdom. This time, the 4 kingdoms were working together in an attempt to wipe out Lu Yun Kingdom. Could the eggs remain unbroken when the nest was completely overturned? Rumor had it that the people of the 4 kingdoms had massacred and slaughtered civilians of Lu Yun Kingdom. Even if Lu Yuchen was such a coward, like Chancellor Lu, he knew it well that if the 4 kingdoms took over Lu Yun Kingdom, simply no one could survive. Everyone had rushed to Tang's rescue to defend their homeland. Even the lady of the Mu family, Mu Qinger, had rushed to the city's gate. Should Lu Yuchen even call himself a man to hide at his own manor now? No. Yuchen, you must not go. Let them fight for us. If they all die, you can't turn the whole situation around with your own strength. I can't live without you. Let's pack up and leave here. Lady Lu cried her heart out and held on to Lu Yuchen's thigh tightly. These people from the 4 kingdoms have surrounded the whole imperial city. Do you still think we could escape from the city? When they have successfully attacked the city, we would all die. They are truly ruthless and they will not let go of any of us. Lu Yuchen smiled wryly. You must not go. Let them fight for us. As the members of the Lu family are civil officials, naturally, we are not meant for battling. Let them make the frontal attack. You must not go. Lady Lu screamed sharply. Her face was contorted in anxiety. Mother. Lu Yuchen's body stiffened even more. I have said, you are not allowed to go. If you dare to step out of this manor, I will take my own life. Lady Lu loosened her grip on Lu Yuchen's thigh, took out a dagger, and placed it near her neck. Mother, I know you are afraid of death. Startled, Lu Yuchen stared at Lady Lu for a long while before he said, one would never dare take her own life if she was afraid of dying. Lu Yuchen had always been filial and obedient, but this time, he wanted to follow his heart. Lu Yuchen turned to leave the manor. However, before he stepped out of the manor, an aura rushed up to him and hit him on his back. He fell forward, hitting his head on the ground. He could vaguely see a solemn face before he lost his consciousness. Yuchen, even if you want to die, don't put the whole Lu family in trouble. If the 4 kingdoms wiped out Lu Yun Kingdom, we can still surrender. With the strong foothold of the Lu family in this realm, the 4 kingdoms would naturally accept us. On the contrary, if you get into the battle and offended the 4 kingdoms, we are finished. He must never let Lu Yuchen put the Lu family into trouble. What was so wrong remaining alive? Why must Lu Yuchen seek his own demise? Everyone must learn to protect themselves in times of trouble. Fighting for the kingdom was total nonsense. If Lu Yun Kingdom fell apart, the Lu family could go to another kingdom for shelter. Chancellor Liu's words echoed in Lu Yuchen's ears before his vision turned dark. His eyes were filled with disbelief and shock. Lady, take him away to get some rest. He is such an idiot. He does not even know what he should and shouldn't do. He is digging his own grave, Chancellor Lu said as he frowned. There were too many idiots in this world. Chapter 383. When the kingdom is under attack, stand up and fight back. 4 at the same time. Everyone gathered at Paramount. The atmosphere was full of sorrow. You haven't reached the young master yet? Half a month ago, something had happened in the clan and the 9th young master had gone back to the clan together with some masters. No one had ever seen him since. However, they could hardly reach the young master on normal days. They had gotten used to it. This time, the 4 kingdoms had worked together to attack Lu Yun Kingdom. They wanted to know what was on the young master's mind and were waiting for his command. Should we help them? Paramount does not belong to Lu Yun Kingdom. By right, we need not help. However, the young master truly cares for Her Highness Feng Ruching. If we sit back and do nothing, we might offend the young master. A young man furrowed his brows with a nagging feeling in his heart. As the headquarters of Paramount was not located in Lu Yun Kingdom, there were not many masters here. The only dark warrior had left with the young master, and there were only 2 to 3 spirit warriors left in Paramount of Lu Yun Kingdom. They truly had no idea if they were capable of helping Lu Yun Kingdom. Most importantly, they wanted to know the young master's decision. If the young master decided to help, these spirit warriors would not hesitate to risk their lives for the kingdom. His brows knitted together, and one of them was raised. The young master seems to like Her Highness Feng Ruching very much. If he knows that we didn't help her, he would explode with rage. Feng Lan, why don't you get into the palace? I heard that someone has sneaked into the palace. Zhao Shi and I will rush to the city's gate. Feng Lan was the only lady out of the 3 persons. All right. She nodded slightly. The young master had always been keeping a close eye on Feng Ruching. He must have fallen for her. Hence, the people in Paramount must not turn a blind eye to Lu Yun Kingdom. In the Yang Exine Hall, half sitting on the bed, Feng Tianyu coughed softly. His face was ghastly pale. He moved backward and let his head rested against the wall. Eunuch Ling, how long have you been serving me? This old servant had started serving your majesty ever since you were still a crown prince. Slightly startled, Eunuch Ling, who was still waiting beside Feng Tianyu, smiled wryly. Feng Tianyu smiled wryly and took out a jade ring under the pillow. The jade ring was so beautiful. It was translucent and glistening like a crystal. Eunuch Ling, please leave the palace for Feng Ruching. Give her this ring, isn't this the previous emperor's? A look of disbelief and shock crept into Eunuch Ling's eyes. Eunuch Ling, my father gave this to me before he left the palace. Take this ring as a pledge of our relationship so my father knows that she is his granddaughter. Qing'er is very talented. One day later, she would go into that place and meet him. With my poor health, I am afraid that I would never get into that place. Feng Tianyu closed his eyes slowly as he said in a weak voice. The whole realm only knew that the former emperor was the emperor of Lu Yun Kingdom and commanded the greatest respect. Simply no one knew the former emperor's other identity. However, the former emperor had entered that place and could never return for the rest of his life. As for Feng Tanayu, not only did he have poor health, he had devoted himself entirely to the kingdom and state affairs. Hence, he did not have much time for cultivation. Moreover, Feng Ruching was not capable of handling the kingdom affairs previously. Hence, he could not leave the palace for cultivation. Perhaps, he could never meet his father for the rest of his life. It was fortunate that Feng Ruching had changed. She was extremely talented. Perhaps there was still a chance. Chapter 384. He does not want her to feel lonely and helpless, Your Majesty, doesn't the former emperor? Eunuch Lin bit back his words in shock. His Majesty said that the former emperor is still alive? If that was true, His Majesty and Empress Nailin would not have to suffer the hardships, and no one would have dared to mistreat them. He is still alive, but he had a contract with those people that he would leave the city and never return to this place for the rest of his life. Feng Tianyu smiled wryly as he shook his head. By doing this, the whole realm would regain its peace and tranquility. Eunuch Lin, my father had exchanged his lifetime freedom for the peace of this realm. Otherwise, simply no one knows if the 5 kingdoms would still exist. If he knew that the people of the 4 kingdoms are attacking us, would he regret it? Feng Tianyu heaved a sigh melancholically. When Feng Tianyu was still young, he was reading the memorial when his father had rushed up to him with his body covered in blood to bid him farewell. Only then he realized his father's actual strength. His father had battled with a group of people for 3 days and came in neck and neck. The former emperor could not help but draw a contract with those people to stop them from massacring the people of Lu Yun Kingdom or hurting anyone around him. He had gone to a place without any way to turn back. In return, 3 influencers from the reclusive world were selected to stop anyone in the reclusive world from laying his hands on the civilians in the secular world. Whoever broke the promise would suffer the vessels of wrath. Your Majesty, the former emperor truly cares for the kingdom. Moreover, he never knew that there were actually other people who would harm Your Majesty and Empress Nalan besides the people from the reclusive world. Eunuch Lin sighed softly. I did not understand his decision back then. If I were him, I would not give up my freedom for the kingdom's well-being. Nothing is more important than my own family. Feng Tianyu smiled wryly. However, later on, I begin to understand. My father is the real emperor who reigns over the kingdom. He had concealed his own strength as he had long planned to get into the reclusive world. He was worried that those people would take revenge on him and hurt me. Hence, he had tasked me to handle all the kingdom affairs to train me. He was a father and the emperor of Lu Yun Kingdom. He wanted to protect me and, at the same time, keep an eye on the whole kingdom. Even though I am no match for him, I had always admired him. Ever since Feng Tianyu fell sick, he could hardly talk. Now, he was explaining so much as if he was afraid that Feng Ruqing would not know about this. Hence, he told Eunuch Lin everything. Your Majesty, you are a wise emperor too. Eunuch Lin's voice was trembling. No, I am just a father. Feng Tianyu shook his head with a smile on his face. He would never leave his daughter behind for his life. Eunuch Lin, Qing'er went to the Tang family. Take this jade ring and look for her. Tell her not to come back to Lu Yun Kingdom again. She is my only daughter. She must not die. Tell her not to avenge me without being sure that she will succeed. Feng Tianyu smiled faintly. Lu Yun Kingdom's enemies were not only the 4 kingdoms. Since the Lu family was part of this attack, that influencer had taken part too. Feng Tianyu did not want Feng Ruqing to deal with such great trouble before she was fully grown up. Chapter 385. He does not want her to feel lonely and helpless too, Your Majesty. I don't want to leave you. Please let this old servant stay with you. Eunuch Lin nearly burst into tears. Eunuch Lin, Lu Yun Kingdom's number is up. Since you are quite close to Qing'er, stay with her. I am worried that there is no one close to her by her side in the future. How can I leave her alone and helpless? Feng Tianyu's eyes were filled with pain. Eunuch Lin's body trembled slightly. Feng Tianyu was right. Everyone that Feng Ruqing loved, the Nalan family, the iron-blooded army, the spirit beasts, and the 2 little maidens were all in the Lu Yun Kingdom. If the kingdom had truly fallen, Feng Ruqing would be all alone. Thinking of his, Eunuch Lin's heart was broken. Your Majesty, don't worry. I will take good care of Her Highness. Eunuch Lin's eyes were flooded with tears as he was reluctant to leave. Ever since Eunuch Lin was little, he had entered the Crown Prince Manor and served the emperor for his whole life. How could he leave the emperor now? However, he could never leave the princess all alone, helpless. Feng Tianyu broke into a smile. An exquisitely gorgeous face flashed before his eyes. She was still as stunning as she was when they first met. Her dazzling smile was like a Cupid's arrow, piercing his heart, and he could never let go of her for the rest of his life. Yenner, I can finally see you. I would be so proud to tell you that our daughter has turned out to be such an amazing lady when I meet you in the underworld. Nalan Yin told Feng Tianyu that if she departed this life before him, she would wait for him under the bridge of helplessness and drink Mingpa soup together with him so they could be a couple again in their next lives. Now that Feng Tianyu had brought up their daughter, he could finally meet his late wife. She was no longer waiting for him alone, glancing at the people coming and going in the underworld. A drop of tear fell from the corner of Feng Tianyu's eyes. He began to cough violently and blood gushed out from his mouth. Collapsing to the bed, his face was drained of color. His dignified demeanor vanished in an instant. Your Majesty. Eunuch Lin kneeled down beside the bed. His words were choked by sobbing. Cough, cough. Go now. If you don't leave now, you may not be able to leave later. Feng Tian coughed as he said. As soon as Feng Tianyu finished his words, the door of the Yang Xian Hall creaked open. Stunned, Feng Tianyu turned his head sideways only to see a lady in a violet robe standing at the door. Ding, ding. With a cold smile on her face, Lu Rong stepped into the hall. The golden dangling ornaments on her hair jingled as she walked. The sound was extremely awkward in a hall that was dead silent. Your Majesty, your consort is here to serve you. Currently, I am the only one who can serve you in the palace. A faint smile hung on Lu Rong's lips. Why are you here? Seeing Lu Rong, Feng Tianyu's face darkened. Your Majesty, you don't want to see me? Back then at the flowers feast, I have fallen for you at first sight. However, you only had eyes for Nailan Yin. I was such a fool to give you my heart. Lu Rong paused and let out a boisterous laugh. My heart is so tiny that it can only keep Yenner. Even the whole realm is no match for her. As for you, you are no match for the whole realm. How can you compare yourself with her? Feng Tianyu smirked. Hearing this, Nailan Yan's face contorted with rage. What is so good about Nailan Yan? You were so in love with her when she was alive. Now that she is dead, you still love her. I have drugged you and had almost slept with you, but she was still on your mind even when you lost consciousness. Chapter 386. He does not want her to feel lonely and helpless. 3 Back then, as Lu Rong was extremely lonely in the cold palace one, she could not resist the temptation and got pregnant with Feng Rushuang. However, if this was made known to others, she would definitely lose her life. Moreover, Lu Rong was so in love with Feng Tianyu. She could not resign herself to the fact that Feng Tianyu did not love her back. Hence, she listened to him and drugged Feng Tianyu. The drug was no ordinary filter. It was so extremely strong that it could make Feng Tianyu mistake Lu Rong for the lady that he loved the most. Lu Rong thought that she could get close to his heart by doing this. However, Feng Tianyu could actually tell the difference at first sight. He knew that Lu Rong was not Nailan Yin and had nearly hurt her. It was fortunate that Feng Tianyu had lost his senses being drugged. When he woke up, he had forgotten everything that he did. Lu Rong wanted Feng Tianyu to think that he had slept with her and that Feng Ruhuang was his biological daughter. Haha, even if Feng Tianyu is smart, he has actually been deceived for years. Feng Tianyu, Lu Yun Kingdom's number is up. The whole Nailan family is gone. You will never know that you did not sleep with me even when you die. Schwanger, who has always been calling you her father, is not your biological daughter. Lu Rong sneered. Hearing this, Feng Tianyu was still calm and composed as if he knew it long ago. Aren't you angry? I have hurt your dignity. You are the emperor of Lu Yun Kingdom, but have actually been cheated for so long. Seeing Feng Tian's reaction, Lu Rong's face darkened a few shades. Lu Rong, you don't know me. You have no idea about the relationship between Yenner and I. Feng Tianyu smiled faintly. Dumbfounded, Lu Rong stared at Feng Tianyu in bewilderment. I have never mistaken you for Yenner even when I was drunk or drugged. Her spirit had been deeply engraved in my bone. Even if I mistook your face for hers, I would never mistake you for her. Feng Tianyu, how could you know? Lu Rong's body stiffened. Lu Rong only told Feng Tianyu that he did not sleep with her. How did he know that he was drugged and mistook her for Nailan Yin? Lu Rong, I knew very well that Feng Rushuang is not my daughter a long time ago. Feng Tianyu had been showing Feng Ruching so much of love and affection, but Feng Rushuang did not get the slightest bit of it as Feng Tianyu knew that Feng Rushuang was not his biological daughter. In fact, I knew that you had an affair with someone in the reclusive world. Feng Rushuang is associated with him too. Otherwise, you would have died long ago. I still spared your life even if you have done so many wrongdoings. Do you truly think that I am so patient? I just want to know who that person is. Feng Tianyu sighed. That person had taken Nailan Yan's life, and Feng Tianyu had been searching for him for a long time, but all his efforts had gone down the drain. Who could he be? However, I regret that I had devoted myself entirely to taking revenge and never thought that you would lay your hand on Qinger. Originally, I thought that the person in the reclusive world wanted to kill me through you. Little did I know that you would actually target Feng Ruching. Feng Tianyu sighed. Later on, Feng Tianyu regretted the things that he did, but it was too late. He spared Lu Rong's life back, then as he knew that Lu Rong was associated with the person in the reclusive world. If he had killed Lu Rong, he was no doubt beating the grass to startle the snake. One he feared that he would never know who the mastermind was. Even though he had plenty of beautiful concubines, none of them were made the principal wife. Apparently, Lu Rong did not fall for young Master Xinjiang. She was just taking what she needed from him. However, she could not resign herself to the fact that there were plenty of decent men who fell for Nailin Yin. What is the purpose of telling me this? Even if someone had taken her away, as long as she is alive, I would still have the chance to win back her heart. However, once she is dead, there is nothing I can do. Feng Tianyu smiled wryly. Chapter 388. Qin Shenai How Feng Tianyu wished that Nailin Yin was still alive and stayed at a place in Sangyu mainland. Even if Nailin Yin was taken away by the people who drooled over her beauty, so long as she was still alive, Feng Tianyu did not care if she was all alone or she already had someone by her side. He did not even care if she had given her heart away and did not want to come back to him. He only wished her to be still alive. Nailin Yin is beautiful, but it is not her fault. The people of Divine Herb's sect had taken my wife away. She was the most innocent person. Feng Tianyu's eyes were fixed on Lu Rong. It was not Nailin Yan's fault. She was innocent, and she had lost her life because of her beauty. It was those people who drooled over her beauty to be blamed. Feng Tianyu did not allow anyone to point her finger at Nailin Yin. Burning with jealousy, Lu Rong quickly unsheathed her sword and pointed it at Feng Tianyu. Feng Tianyu, I want you to call Nailin Yin a slut. Say it. Feng Tianyu merely closed his eyes with a smile on his face. My Yinner is the best lady that I have ever met. She is unparalleled in the whole realm. Feng Tianyu, are you still the emperor who stood aloof from the masses and the top of Lu Yun Kingdom? Now, you are just as weak as a chicken. Do you truly think that I won't kill you because I love you? If you don't do as what I said, I will kill you. With the sword in her grip, Lu Rong's hand was trembling. Her eyes were blazing with rage. Originally, Eunuch Ling only stared at both of them and did not utter a word as he wanted to know more details. However, seeing Lu Rong who was so daring and pointed the sword at Feng Tianyu, he could not resist the anger and rushed forward to take the sword away from Lu Rong. Even though Lu Rong was lack of talent, at this time, she was as if attained a great strength. She kicked Eunuch Ling at his pants and had sent him flying in the air. You swine. You truly think that I don't know you always go against me all these years? I will deal with you later. Eunuch Ling spat out a mouthful of blood. His eyes were burning with rage as he stared at Lu Rong. Advanced True Warrior Tier. It was just one step away from Spirit Warrior Tier. You are doping, aren't you? Feng Tianyu had no idea since when Lu Rong had gone this far. Some of spirit herbs had been forbidden as these spirit herbs could enhance the cultivator's strength and made a breakthrough in a snap of finger. However, the side effect was inexhaustible. Hence, they were forbidden in the reclusive world, let alone the secular world. Lu Rong must have attained the advanced true warrior tier because of doping. Otherwise, she could hardly do that for her whole life. Feng Tianyu, both you and Nailin Yin had failed me so many times. Don't you ever feel bad for me? Lu Rong's bloodshot eyes turned extremely ferocious. Both of us have a clear conscience. Feng Tianyu merely sneered. Haha, clear conscience? Firstly, ever since I stepped into the palace, you have never come into my manor. Secondly, you have never slept with me. Thirdly, Nailin Yin is so overbearing that she is the only person who enjoyed all your love and affection. Don't you dare to say that you never fail me? Lu Rong let out a boisterous laugh. Chapter 389. Qin Shun Tu, a woman's most beautiful and wonderful years were spent at the palace. She was willing to enter the palace because of love, but all she got was a lifetime of pain and grief. This is all Nailan Yan's fault. It was she who was so selfish and overbearing. She prohibited His Majesty from entering our bedrooms. If not, there wouldn't have been so much trouble. Yenner and I want to tell you that you'll be living a lonely life here if you enter the palace. He'll never be with any of you. If you're unwilling, we'll let you go even if we're under great pressure. But still, you'll have to face the consequences if you make this decision. The emperor chose to leave when he was young and weak. Lu Yunxiao brought along a group of people and forced him to marry the concubine, and he was under great pressure. At last, Yenner made that decision because she could not endure the sight of him under great pressure. But they gave the women the opportunity to choose for themselves. The emperor and Yenner were never selfish people. They would not want to ruin those women's lives because of the pressure given by the ministers. If they wanted to leave, the emperor would surely let them go even if the pressure was high. But those women were greedy and they desired the wealth in the palace, so they chose not to leave. So, they must endure the consequences. The emperor was not a kind person either. He would not betray Yenner for the sake of those women. No, it's your fault. Lu Rong was mad now. It was you who have destroyed me. You're the emperor. You should have a lot of women with you. Why did you have to be loyal to only one? She had ruined my happiness. She deserved to die. So what if my father pressured him into marrying the concubines? He should have a lot of women. He should never be loyal to only one. Feng Tianyu raised his hand shakily. A slap came with the wind, and he slapped Lu Rong on the face. He used a lot of force in this slap, and Lu Rong's body was flung away. She fell to the ground. Feng Tianyu coughed. He vomited a mouthful of blood after he slapped Lu Rong. His handsome face turned pale, and his body was weak. You! Lu Rong stared at him unbelievably. Feng Tianyu was poisoned, and he could not use spiritual force. If he chose to use it, the poison would spread in his body deeply. This bastard just hit me because I criticized Nailan Yin. He is not afraid to die. Why? Is it because he loves her so much that even I cannot badmouth her? Lu Rong almost exploded with anger. She shouted maniacally. She held a sword in her hand and rushed toward Feng Tianyu. Feng Tianyu, they'll send you to be with her today. Since you love her so much, and you won't even give me some of your love, then you better go and be with her. Lu Rong's steps became heavy after walking a few steps. She lowered her eyes and saw that Eunuch Lin was holding onto her legs tightly. Eunuch Lin did not want her to move forward. Get lost. Lu Rong did not want to kill Eunuch Lin just yet. She wanted him alive so that she could harm him in various ways in the future. So, she kicked at Eunuch Lin harshly. She wanted him to leave. Eunuch Lin endured the kick completely, but he still did not let go of his hand. He hugged Lu Rong's legs tightly. Come quickly. Come and protect His Highness. Faster, come and protect His Highness. Lu Rong kicked Eunuch Lin's body angrily. Don't shout anymore. Those people aren't there. Nobody would come and save him. They'll kill you first if you won't let go. There was blood on Eunuch Lin's mouth. He had lost some of his teeth too. She put her leg on Eunuch Lin's head heavily. She even kicked his head hard, twice. This eunuch deserves it. You can't blame me since you were seeking death yourself. Lu Rong's eyes seemed cold. She drew out her sword and stabbed his head. Eunuch Lin felt a deep chill down his spine, but still did not let go of his hands. Chapter 390. Qin Shun 3. He did not believe that all the people in the palace had died. There will be somebody coming to the rescue if I could earn some extra time for His Majesty, even if it's only a minute or a second. The cold wind blew. Eunuch Lin closed his eyes slowly. There was great pain on his face. Your Majesty, I still have not gone and looked for the princess in the end. It seems that the princess will finally be left all alone. Suddenly, a long sword slashed through the air and cut Lu Rong's palm into half. Lu Rong's voice was filled with pain, and it was heard at that moment. Arg! Eunuch Lin thought that he was going to die, but he realized that the pain did not come. Soon, he heard Lu Rong's cry of pain. He was stunned. He turned and saw a woman in green who had brought along a group of people. They came through the door. Feng Lan soon breathed a sigh of relief when she found that Feng Tianyu was safe. She walked forward slowly and held up her fist. She said, "Your Majesty, I'm Feng Lan from Paramount. We have come to save you under the order of the ninth young master." The young master had feelings for the princess. So, she needed to leave a good impression here for the young master as she was his subordinate. The young master would surely be happy when he was back. Lu Rong's hand was bleeding ceaselessly. She almost fainted with pain. Lu Rong regretted now. She regretted that she had talked so much with Feng Tianyu. I should have killed the eunuch first before killing Feng Tianyu. She never thought that the people from Paramount would have come and helped them. Thank you. Feng Tianyu gave a bitter smile. But it's better if you leave. It's the Divine Herbs sect who wants to destroy Lu Yun Kingdom. The Divine Herbs sect? Feng Lan was frightened when she heard those 3 words. Isn't it a conspiracy among the 4 kingdoms? Why is the Divine Herbs sect a part of it? But it was too late now that she had come. If the Divine Herbs sect had intervened in that matter, they would surely know of her role there. It was no use crying over spilled milk. She had no choice but to complete what she had started. Your Majesty, we might as well stay and help you now that we have come, given that we have offended them. I'll be unable to explain to my young master if I cannot save you. Feng Tianyu's mouth moved just a bit. I'm unable to leave now that my body has become like this. Lady Feng, can I ask for a favor from you? What kind of favor, Your Majesty? Take him out of here. Feng Tianyu's eyes fell on Eunuch Lin. Take him out of here. I don't want Qinger to be alone in this world without anybody here to take care of her. If it's possible, please bring me to General Manor. Then, you can bring Dyer and the general's wife with you. Feng Tianyu knew that Master Nailin would never leave the kingdom when there was a crisis. But he wanted to leave some hope for the Nailin family. If he guessed it right, the Divine Herbs sect had secretly interfered with the war happening at the border of the kingdom. Then, there would be spirit warriors at the battlefield. Jinger and Zhangqian might not be able to come back too. Feng Tianyu's heart was in great pain when he thought of this. All of them were Yen'er relatives, but he could not even protect them. Then, Feng Lan looked at Feng Tianyu in shock. Feng Tianyu smiled. I cannot get up and move. It's difficult for you to leave if you bring me along. Why don't you bring Dyer and the general's wife here, so that I'll be able to explain to Yen'er later when I meet her in the afterlife? Feng Tianyu was seriously ill. If he left with them, he would be a burden to them. It's better to put the hope to live on General Manor. If not, Yen'er would surely blame him for not protecting the Nailin family. Chapter 391. Qin Shun 4. Feng Lan was touched. The Emperor of Lu Yun Kingdom was indeed loyal to his late wife. The Empress had died for so many years, but he still missed her so much. Now, he only had Feng Ruqing and Feng Rushuang as his children. Your Highness, don't worry. They'll bring them out of here safely. Feng Lan realized that Feng Tianyu had made his decision. So, she did not persuade him to leave. Then, she turned and wanted to leave the palace. The whole imperial city was in chaos now. General Manor must be in great danger too. Feng Lan needed to be quick if she wanted to save them. There was a calm voice outside of Young Xian Hall at that moment, but the voice was thunderous. It was loud. You have to stay given that you've interfered with the matter. Feng Lan's body froze. She turned and looked out of the hall. She saw a few people entering her vision. 5 spirit warriors? Feng Lan was shocked. Didn't they say that the spirit warriors of the 4 kingdoms had gone to the entrance of the city? Why are there spirit warriors here inside of the palace? Are they the people of the Divine Spirit sect? No, it shouldn't be. The people of Divine Spirit sect are not so brave as to break those laws. That person has concealed himself for so many years, and he has not done anything to Feng Tianyu because he was afraid of those laws. So, he would never allow those people to interfere now. If not, his life would be ruined if he left any evidence behind. Is it you? Feng Tianyu coughed twice. He vomited a mouthful of blood. His eyes fell on a middle-aged man. He was surprised. Are you Linio? Long ago, Feng Tianyu had gone out with Yen'er when he was still a prince. They met a reckless young master from the Lin family at the market. Linio did not know of Feng Tianyu's status as a prince. He picked up a fight with Feng Tianyu because he had fallen in love at first sight with Yenner. So, Feng Tianyu beat him so hard out of anger. I never thought that hell make the breakthrough to Spirit Warrior tier. Feng Tianyu's eyes narrowed. Did you consume forbidden medicine too? Lin Iyo laughed coldly. Feng Tianyu, you humiliated me that year. Did you ever think that you'll be defeated by me one day? Feng Tianyu was calm. He did not have any emotion other than the shock he felt at first. Feng Tianyu never cared about Lin Iyo. He just dreaded the divine spirit sect. Lady Feng. Feng Tianyu smiled helplessly. It's me who burdens you today. Feng Lan frowned slightly. There were people with great strength here among the spirit warriors. She alone might not be able to beat them. It'll be better if the young master is here. It'll be better if the elders are here, even if the young master is absent. They could not protect Lu Yun Kingdom with only a few of them. Lu Rong was in great pain. She was breaking out in cold sweat. She stared at Feng Lan with hatred. Kill her. Kill that woman. Just shut up. Lin Iyo slapped her hard. Lu Rong had not even recovered, and she was hit again. She fell down to the floor and vomited a mouthful of blood. Her face was pale. How dare you hit me? Lu Rong was infuriated. I'm the young master's woman. How dare you hit me? You're just a useless person. You're useless for the young master given that you're just another woman. Moreover, Lu Rong was a married woman. The young master only took advantage of her because she was gullible. Lin Iyo drew out his long sword when he was done talking. Soon, he came to stand in front of the bed. Feng Lan moved fast, and he blocked Lin Iyo in his path. She held up her sword and forced Lin Iyo to retreat a few steps. Chapter 392. Qin Shanvi. The other spirit warriors had also made a move. The people from Paramount were not spirit warriors. They were not a match for the spirit warriors. They were soon defeated. The palace was immersed in a pool of blood. The sun was even brighter. Damn it! Feng Lan gritted her teeth grudgingly. She would not be able to protect the others by looking at the situation now. Moreover, she might be killed there. Another spirit warrior made a strike on Feng Lan when she was distracted. Feng Lan's shoulder was hit with a heavy slap. She staggered. She nearly fell because of the strike, but she held on to herself strongly. Lady Feng, don't bother about me, Feng Tianyu said calmly. It's not a problem for you to leave here. They're here for me. Just go. Don't make unnecessary sacrifices. Feng Tianyu did not understand why the people from Paramount wanted to save him, but he did know that he would die. There's no need to make unnecessary sacrifices. Feng Tianyu was not afraid to die. He was just worried about Qinger. Feng Tianyu got up from his bed without knowing where his strength came from. He got up slowly and got down from his bed in staggering steps. He could not even stand firmly, but his back was straight. He stood there proudly. A man's waist should never be bent. Facing death, one should stand up straight. They'll never let anyone look down on Lu Yun Kingdom. I'm here if you want to kill me. But I, Feng Tianyu, never regretted the things I have done. Lin Iyo did not talk much with Feng Tianyu. He walked toward Feng Tianyu and looked down at him condescendingly. Just as you wish. Feng Tianyu smiled. He was not afraid. His self-esteem did not allow him to lose any dignity no matter how his destiny would be. He did not care whether he was going to die or live that day. Lin Iyo raised his long sword. No. Eunuch Lin was frightened. He rushed toward Lin Iyo anxiously. But he was too late. He saw Lin Yuya's sword falling in front of him. The sword stabbed the body with a deep sound. The blood gushed out, and it splashed onto Eunuch Lin's face. Lin Iyo smiled triumphantly. But his body fell backward, and he fell down on the floor with a thud. Blood gushed out from Lin Yuya's back. It soon stained the floor. Eunuch Lin was clearly in great shock. His face was pale like a sheet of paper. His heart beat shakily. The others were shocked. They looked at Lin Iyo, who was on the ground, laying in a pool of blood. Then, they turned toward the door. The sun burned brightly, and it shone dazzlingly. A youth's slim body stood under the bright sun. His slim body was covered with a weird black long robe. His handsome face was cold and distant. There was a light scar on his left cheek. Chapter 393. The Heroic Spirit Never Dies. Who are you? The spirit warrior's facial expressions changed. The youth seemed quite young. He had that kind of strength. When did Lu Yun Kingdom have that kind of genius? Qin Shun never liked to talk to anybody. He only liked to kill people. Those people did not receive any response from Qin Shun. But they were faced with Qin Shin's multiple attacks. The spirit warrior was soon stabbed in his chest with a long sword. His body froze and blood was gushing out of his chest. His whole body slumped forward and he soon lost his breath. Feng Tianyu was stunned. He fixed his eyes upon the youth's handsome face. "You're Qin Shun." Qin Shun seemed cold and expressionless. "My name." Blood was everywhere at the entrance of the imperial city. Many heroes had lost in this war. There were also many heroic spirits who had lost their lives in this war. Their strength was weak. They could not change much of the situation, but they were powerful heroes too. Everyone. Nalen, who used his own sword to block a few attacks. He stood in the wild wind with perseverance as strong as iron. Nalen, who, promise right here that we'll definitely mark down your names as long as there's somebody in the Nalen family. We'll never forget this war in Lu Yun Kingdom. Heroes were not labeled as heroes because they were powerful. They were heroes because they had a loyal heart to protect their kingdom against the attack of the enemies. However, heroes should never be forgotten. Their names must be written down and engraved on stone monuments. Their names should be passed down from generation to generation. Another old man was beaten and had fallen. Nalen, who remembered him. He was the grand tutor who had resigned from his position 10 years ago. Tan Shuangshuang's father became the grand tutor because of his resignation. He was no longer a minister of the palace, but he still came and joined the war because he was loyal to the kingdom. Nalen, who also remembered the youth who had fallen beside him. It was the grandson of the bakery family in Western Street. He was only a civilian, but his loyalty was unbeatable. Nalen, who was grieving. His anger increased with every minute. He still fought on strongly, facing those two spirit warriors. He did that because the others would be able to kill more people if he could hang on for a little longer. But this war was just taking too long. It was so long that he felt exhausted. It was so long that he might faint any minute now. Nalen Huss' eyesight began to fade. He did not know whether it was because of his exhaustion or that sweat was blurring his vision. Lu Yongxiu's long sword came like lightning. It soon entered his vision. Nalen, who raised his sword quickly and blocked Lu Yongxiu's long sword. He took a few steps back from the strong attack. There was a long and deep mark on the ground. Nalen, who coughed and vomited a mouthful of blood. He staggered and his long sword was firmly stabbed into the ground. His back was still upright. He was like a cold pine tree that was not afraid of the cold and the rain. Lu Yun Kingdom will never be destroyed as long as the Nalen family is still here. Nalen Huss' thunderous voice sounded. The soldiers of the Nalen family raised their weapons high and their firm and loud voices were heard ceaselessly under the bright sun. The Nalen family will never be beaten. Lu Yun Kingdom will never be destroyed. Attack. This war was the most difficult war faced by the Nalen family. They would never have asked the spirit warriors to join the war before this for the safety of the kingdom. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.